she looked at me right here, and her eyes changed, her mouth and her tongue came out, and she hissed in my face, like this far away, like really close to me. And my automatic reaction was that I hissed back at her.
Codega is a guide and a storyteller, escorting you through the night, lighting the way, warding off thieves, ghosts, demons, and other oddities. Along the journey, his companions would often share with him the most curious of stories that he'd record in his codex. Perhaps you just might find yourself traveling with a Codega and sharing one of yours. Welcome back to Codega's Codex of Curiosities. And of course, everyone, I'm Rye. Tonight, I have the fabulous Rebecca Keating, who is no stranger to the mystical and extraordinary. She has had many, many experiences which turned her life pretty much upside down and, questioned this world that we walk in. Now, as a healer and a spiritual guide, she has spent years walking between worlds, connecting with energies and wisdom and beings most would never believe exist. So this is one that I am looking forward to. This conversation is going to be really interesting, and I know you guys will be really interested in this too. Now, before we jump into it, I just want to give a shout out to my supporters, especially to Michelle, who just picked up some sweet merch. And you could be getting some shout outs too if you just go to my merch store, pick up a shirt or two for yourself. And of course, I'm going to shout you out because thank you for supporting the show. We are independent. I would say news sources. We are your new news sources. And it's great to be supported. So shout out to every independent news source out there, such as myself or Brad from the Awaken podcast, or Matt from Planet 412, or Blake from Mount Man Explore the Truth. Shout out to them all. Go show them some love, go show them some support, just like you do for me. All right. Let's get ready and let's get into this conversation. So, Rebecca, welcome to Codega's Codex of Curiosities.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm looking forward to this. Brad introduced me to you and he's like, you got to have Rebecca on. She is an amazing guest. And I listened to his episode as well. And I'm like, yes. And so then I started following you on Instagram as well. And very, very interesting. So before we jump into just our conversation, of course, can you tell my listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself and where they can find you?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. So a little bit about me. My background is in nursing. I was a registered nurse. And in nursing school, on my own path to healing myself in my own trauma, I discovered energy healing in my first year of nursing. And that led me to kind of come to a realization that I was going into the wrong profession. I remember having the moment of knowing that I was in the wrong profession. And I still went through my nursing. I still had a very good career in nursing, but I was always working towards what I do now. And I was learning shamanic work and learning energy work and everything that I do over the years. And it's been about 10 years now, over 10 years now that I have been fully, doing everything that I do now, which is kind of like an array of things. And people can find me at RebeccaKeating.com. Mostly what I do these days is teaching, and I do some retreat style things, and I do session work as well.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, it's very interesting. When you've gone on this path, and then you I'm curious as to how did you find out about energy healing? Was that through your school, which I highly doubt, but I do know in Europe they do incorporate some Reiki with some of the nursing as well, but I highly doubt that here in North America. How did you find out about energy healing?
Yeah, there was definitely none of that in school. I was just essentially like trying to heal. I was going through a lot of like trauma and not understanding why. And I had this like breaking moment where I was like, something just told me to get in my car and go to the bookstore and go to the self-help section, which I had never been there before. And I just found myself there. And this book called Eastern Body, Western Mind, it was a book on the chakras. And I took that home. I read that book. I cried the whole time, and I just like every like my world now made sense. I didn't understand things. I didn't have the lens of energy and how we store things in the body. And once I had that framework, it was just like I knew that was what I was meant to do, and I was just like I need to learn more, and that was been my whole journey essentially.
Interesting, yeah. And I know that exact voice. It's like it's not necessarily it's not like it's speaking out loud, but it's almost like this suggestion. It's like you need to, and I've had the one tell me to go to the bookstore before, and I had one tell me to give someone a book before too as well. It's very, very strange. Or, you need to go to this location, you need to do this, you need to break the stone open. It's quite interesting and fascinating when you start to listen, because the voice, the suggestions are there. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it's someone saying you need to do this. It's more of a suggestion, and I appreciate that, because it's not a command. It's kind of like this guidance, almost, in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And if you listen to it, then it always sort of leads you in the right direction.
Exactly. It's like these breadcrumbs are left out for you, and I'm interested as to into your shamanic path, because I too have gone that path as well, and I would love to hear that story, and how you went that way and how that became.
Yeah, I think I was really drawn to it because again, just the desire to heal. And I had like, very long I had a lot of trauma, I had a lot of things happen from, this life and beyond. And it was like my quest to sort of overcome my fear that I had a lot of fear around everything. And so it was a journey into my own path. And one of my first teachers was, he's passed away now, but I refer to him a lot because a lot of the things I still share to this day, he taught me about spirituality. Back in 2010 is when I first met him. And he was talking about everything that was going to happen in 2020, like everything. And everything he talked about happened. He talked about who, a lot of it was orchestrated by reptilians. He talked about all of that. And he taught me so much, like really early in my journey. So I went from also that, and then I worked with two women who I did several years of work with, these two women that were really amazing. And my most recent training has been with the Cuero shamans of the Andes Mountains. And I've been there several times and learned from them, and also a well known anthropologist, Juan Nunez del Prado. He's one of my teachers and spent a few years out there doing work. So I've had a range of like what you could say lineages, I guess. And the core of the work that I do nowadays is more with the Quero, because I like their simple way of working with energy. And essentially that's like they work with energy, and the mountains, the apus, they make offerings, and their whole way of being is based on Aini, which is reciprocity. So and I just love the lineage. I love the teachings. They're simple. They're not like archaic and complex. Like some shamanic work can be, I find, a little bit too archaic. So yeah, I just find that I bring that into everything I do now, the shamanic work, because I find that's a lot of that's missing with, say, people go and they want to learn energy healing, or they want to learn, there's not a lot of personal work involved. It's like, oh, here's the skills, this is how you do it. But like, who are you as a person? You have to do your healing too. So that's where I bring, like, that's why the shamanic work is really important to me, because that's a lot of your own healing.
I I think that's the best thing to say is like, we kind of like, oh, here's the skills, okay, see you later, bye, and we don't really work with ourselves. And I really got into the new age kind of era kind of thing, and I felt though it's a bit of a quagmire. People get stuck there, and I think that they need to move on like past that,
Yeah.
because of the inner healing that needs to be done. We need to look inside and face our own demons, face our shadow self. Look in that mirror, and it's difficult. Like, even for myself to go look in that mirror, and I'm like, okay, I need to face these things. I need to deal with these issues. But a lot of times people are like, nope, just light and love, light and love. I'm just going to send that out. And I'm like, oh my God, no, like there's, you're just scratching the surface. There's so much more onto it. And you like, I think it's a good rest stop, the new age, but we need to move on and further and deepen ourselves and heal ourselves, because if we're broken and we're out there trying to help the world and help everyone else, you're going to cause more damage to yourself and to everyone else. I think even though you're trying to do good and in your mind I'm doing good, I just don't think it works that way. Now, you did say something that I do want to kind of focus and work on this. Like, you said that your teacher brought up what's going to happen in 2020, and they said it'll be brought down by the reptilians.
Yeah.
And maybe 5 years ago, I might have been like, well, maybe a little more than that, but I might have been like, what are you talking about? This is crazy. Like, I remember hearing David Icke years and years ago, and I'm like, that guy's nuts. Now I'm like, I got to get David Icke on my show. Like,
Right.
this is imperative. Like, it's very important that we get this information out, that I believe human, like human beings, our Homo sapiens, aren't the only um, beings on this planet. I extremely believe that. Do I have proof? I don't really have my own, like, other than anecdotal evidence, maybe not my own anecdotal evidence, but everyone else's. But there's not. It's very hidden. But it's hidden, but it's also in plain sight as well. What are let's get into that a little bit. If you can share some information.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like I see them every single day now. Like, I'm always like, they're among us, like many beings, because we are many different races and hybrid races on this planet. All of us, I think, have alien DNA. We've been, hybridized, and you can see it in people. You can see the different races. I mean, I walk every day and I pass somebody. The other day I saw a grasshopper mantis, which I've never seen one of those before. And I was like, oh my goodness, I feel like we're seeing them more clearly these days now as well, the different races, the different species that are among us. But the reptilians are one that I have seen shapeshift. I've seen several of them shapeshift in person, and I've seen them, interdimensionally as well. And then some of the praying mantis being that I've seen in the airport. Everyone's roasting me because I called it the Ireland airport, and everyone's roasting me. I have to go check my itinerary to see exactly what airport that was in Ireland.
Okay. You're like, was it I don't know. Is it Dublin Airport? I don't know.
It was Dublin, actually. Yeah.
Okay. But like, so do you think that what you saw or what you have seen are full 100% or hybrids? What do you feel that you're seeing? Like, do you feel that they're just kind of like putting on a facade, like a fake thing, but then they kind of reveal that, or is it like this combination?
I think it's a combination. It's not something that I'm like an expert by any means. David Icke he would probably know. It's not something I've studied, and it's not my life's work is not really based on that. But I feel the one that I saw in the movie theater was, I mean, she shape shifted in front of me, and hissed at me. So I feel like her what sh I don't know, to be honest. I can't say clearly
Clearly.
whether she, but what I feel with that particular woman is that she knows she's reptilian. I don't think all of them know, from what I have observed. They don't all know. But she definitely knew that she was reptilian. So I would say she was more like a reptilian that can shapeshift. She's wearing a human mask, but she's not human.
Got you. Can you tell us about that experience that happened at the movie theater?
Yeah. So this was not about 9 years ago. I was aware of reptilians. I wasn't like obsessed with them. I just knew they existed. They were in my sphere of understanding. And I was there with my partner, and we're just having a good time. We're laughing, we're getting our tickets, and we're getting our popcorn, and we're preparing. And we're in a huge movie theater in Toronto. And I noticed that this woman was with her family, two kids and her husband. I noticed from way across the movie theater that she was just like glaring at me. Like she was like fixated on me. Like she hated me. And I said to my partner, I said, this woman like has an issue with me. I have no idea what's happening, but like I can see her. I just kind of forgot about it and just was being my normal self. And then we ended up having a problem with the tickets. So we had to get in line to get tickets. And we're him and I are standing in the lineup, we're waiting, and she just happens to come walking by us like this. And as her two kids and husband walked ahead of her, and she passed me face on, she she looked at me right here, and her eyes changed, her mouth and her tongue came out, and she hissed in my face like this far away, like really close to me. And my automatic reaction was that I hissed back at her.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is intense. Did your partner see that at all?
He was right there. He heard the hissing. He saw the whole thing go down. And we couldn't believe it. Like, I mean, I've been talking about this for years. Like, whenever I have an opportunity, like, it's not like it's always on my mind, but if I've ever had an opportunity to share it, I share it because I'm like, I've seen it. I've for sure seen it. And it was also really weird and strange. It was like the family, it was like she veiled them somehow. Like, I mean, they can do all kinds of mind control and stuff. And it was like she veiled them so they weren't aware, because it was like they were in another dimension, because they were right there, but they weren't, like how do you not see your mother have an altercation with somebody and they hiss at each other in the theater? Like, how do you not see that?
Right? That is that's bizarre. That's extremely bizarre. Yes. And why do you think she picked you out? Why do you think you were this point?
So I know for sure, like I was exuding joy, and I've thought about this many times. Like, was I just too happy for her? She didn't like my happiness. She didn't like
That's
my
what I have
joy.
written down. I'm like, issue with happy or possibly your abilities.
And that's like back then I didn't know, because I wasn't doing the level of work that I do now. But now I was like, maybe she could see that I was able to clear them and slay them, I call it. Like, I don't hurt them, but I have authority over them. And I don't think she must have known that. She must have known that. And I guess she foresaw that or something. It had to have been like, why else would that have happened? It's also kind of funny because people will say to me, a lot of common things people say is like, well, where's the photo? Why didn't you take a picture? And I'm thinking, how if you even think about what
Yeah,
happened,
you're like,
how would I have an opportunity to be like, oh, exactly.
right? Everybody says that. Like I've
Yeah.
seen I've seen a lot of stuff, but everybody's like, why didn't you take a photo? I'm like I'm sorry, but like my everyday life, I don't go vlogging my everyday life. It things happen, and I've tried to take photos of a couple of things, but they never turn out. Like I saw like this plasmoid UFO, and my camera would not take a picture of it, and I looked at it
Mm,
for minutes and minutes, but I could not take a picture of it. But I agree with you. It's kind of like, sorry, I don't have my I don't live my life like that. It's
yeah.
just the way it
It's
is.
not even
Yeah.
like it's in my purse. So the amount of time it would have taken me to even just get it out of the purse, she would have been long gone. So it's funny, but I do have two people shapeshifting on camera that I know, that I knew they were reptilian. The one guy, I seen him shapeshift in person twice. Like his head and everything. I knew he was reptilian. I don't think he knew he was reptilian. Same with the other girl. She was one of those people who I don't think knew, but I knew she was. And they both totally separate people. They don't even know each other, but they both did videos on Instagram. And I watched them on the video shapeshift. So right away, I took a screenshot of the one guy. The girl, I took a screen recording. And it was interesting because both of those people took the videos down shortly after. Like within an hour, the videos were taken down because you could see it. Like you could actually see it on video. And I have the screen. I still have it.
Well, with that, then you would assume that maybe they do know, or maybe like somebody or something, you know, checked them on it and was like,
Mm.
hey. you know, you're
You look funny.
you look a little funny, you look a little
Your
green
face
there.
is shifting. Maybe,
Yes,
maybe they knew. I know for sure the one guy, he definitely knew he was different. Like he knew he was different, but I don't know for sure if he knew. He probably knows now. I would imagine he knows now he's reptilian, but or has strong reptilian DNA.
DNA.
Yeah,
And so we're kind of going in this topic, and I this is my not my necessarily my wheelhouse, but I my audience does enjoy these kinds of conversations. Do you feel that like we're being experimented on? It's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna pick these ones and they're gonna pick these ones and we're gonna be experimented on, or is this kind of like some lineage of sorts? Well, maybe it's a little bit of both, but I don't know. Do you feel that the aliens or reptilians or whatever these other beings, like, are they nefarious or are they benevolent? That's a lot of questions.
I think it's all of those things. I think it's a bit of everything. Some of them, I don't think they're all nefarious. I think there are friendly ones that are very high intelligence. I personally don't interact with them, but I don't want to be under the belief that they're all bad. But for the most part, I think the ones that people are aware of that, are probably the ones who I believe have been on the earth for thousands of years. And I think they think that this is their planet and that we are their food source, or energy food source in that sense. And they want to maintain control of our world. And I think that, those ones are not are not the friendly ones. What else was the question? I think I missed
I
part of it.
that's okay. That kind of answered them. That answered the question. There was, and I'll get back to the it was the first part of the question I was talking about. But and I have to agree with you with this benevolent and malevolent kind of. I think there has to be always a balance,
Yeah,
and the ones that present themselves, that are, let's say, interfering almost. I. I'm definitely believe that they are of the malevolent side, because they should not be interfering, they should not be controlling, they should not be abducting, experimenting. As
yeah,
soon as abduction happens, it's against your will, unless you have said, if they've asked, would you like to come with me, sure, then it's of your own free will. But if they're taking you against your own free will, then it's something that I think we need to worry about. Now, I'm going to go into a bit of a different question here. There's been a lot of talk that aliens are demons or are related to the fallen angels. What is your take? What do you believe on that?
I think that there's probably some truth in it, but I think it's more of it could be that they're one and the same thing, but back in the biblical times it was called something different. Like this is like a linguistic issue. It's not like they're probably talking about the same thing, although there could be a range of different types of reptilians and a range of different types of demons. And there's all kinds of different interdimensional dark beings out there. So it could be the same and it might not be, but in general, probably, that I would say it's more of a language thing, but I don't know for sure.
And I can respect your, when you said like, I don't want to work with them. It's like, yeah, I don't want to do it. I completely respect that. It's like, I also talk to people who deal with Bigfoot as well. Like, I do everything, and there's some of them who are like, oh, I have a family and I give them, I have a tribe or a clan of Bigfoot and we feed them, we give a gifting station, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Well,
Stay away from those kinds of things. Like,
yeah.
I think it's very important that we mind our own, kind of, so to speak. Um, and I was going to say, so you had this one interaction, and then you were talking about an airport interaction as well. What was that one?
So the airport interaction was kind of a little bit more casual, just doing a layover, and it was in the Dublin airport. Very funny that came back. And it was in the Dublin airport having a layover from Croatia coming back to Canada. And because I was just sitting there having food again with my partner, and the woman just was at the gate because she was leaving, and she was coming back and forth, going to the bathroom, just hanging around the gate. So we saw her for quite a while. And she was a very, very tall woman with a bone structure that was, it just wasn't human. Triggers people a little bit when I say that, but it wasn't. And that's okay, but it wasn't human.
And let's
And
clarify this. You are a nurse, so I think you have a little better understanding
yes,
of bone structure. Yes.
yes. And she was also wearing tight clothing. Like she was wearing like Lululemon type of outfit. So it was even more obvious to see, and her face and everything. And I was also aware at the time of the praying mantis hybrid type being. And it was just clear as day without even a question. For both of us, we were like, oh my goodness, we're actually seeing a praying mantis species, a hybrid lady in the flesh. We could believe it. It was shocking.
To say the least, to say
Yeah.
the least. Yeah. And do you believe that she was aware of this and like okay with that kind of thing? I don't know if that's a
I mean, she was, I said, like, she could have been wearing baggy clothing and she could have been hiding kind of, she wasn't hiding. She was confident. She looked well dressed and confident in herself, being different. It's okay to be different. And I don't know if she knew or if she just, knew she was maybe a different body type. It's hard to say. Like, I would think if they knew, they would hide it, but maybe
a
not.
little
I
bit
mean,
better.
like
Yeah.
I say all the time, they are walking, not they, but many different beings are walking among us.
Yeah, it brings me back to like Men in Black, where they have like the aliens living among us, and they're hiding in plain sight, and they are
Yeah.
there, and some of them look just a little bit different, and you just can't really fully tell. And there's always truth in Hollywood. Hollywood brings out so much truth. I I'm positive it's always on purpose. It's kind of like it's like a slow, gentle introduction to what we're really facing here in this world. It is crazy. So let's rewind this story. You Let's go back to your nursing. You decided to take this route. You're nursing. You're doing your nursing. You're doing energy healing. Was there any changes while you were being a nurse that you started to notice? Was there any things that's like subtleties that you're just like, okay, I'm sensing something different, or I'm seeing something different?
So yeah, I mean, right away, again in nursing school, and then kind of in my first year of nursing, I started really being sensitive to energy. And that's when, I started seeing a healer actually. And she was like, "Oh, you need to protect your energy. You're very," and if you think about hospitals and people are not ill and they're not clearing energy in these spaces. So I was picking all that up without understanding at first. And then I was also like starting to have like medical intuition where I would feel in my body, like I would go into a patient's room, not know what their diagnosis was, and my lungs would hurt. And that was when I was like, oh, I looked at their chart and I'm like, oh my God, they have lung cancer. And it's interesting because now, like, that's one of my, like, I work with people one on one and I'll feel in my body exactly what's happening with them in the same location and everything. So it was like showing me back then how I could tune it, like, wasn't intentional, but how I was, having that empathic, psychic empath with medical intuition.
That's interesting. That's really interesting that you're able to do that. And I've heard of other people who have done that as well, and they're able to, you know, and it's kind of not it's kind of like that you went into the medical field to begin with is kind of serendipitous as well. It's like you were able to feel these energies, and then you can help maybe help these people a little bit. If not, like, I know lung cancer, that's a hefty thing to
Yeah.
deal with, but perhaps is there anything, have you ever diagnosed something prior to them being diagnosed and saying, maybe you should go take a look at this, or maybe you should have this checked out?
I can't say I have, not that I can think of at this moment, but a lot of the times people come to me and they already have had or have breast cancer or something. And I mean, I don't, when I work with people, I don't ask to know anything, but I feel it in my body. Like if they have it in their right breast, like I'll feel it right away. I'll say, oh, it's in the right. So I know that I can feel that it's there, but I haven't had that exact sort of, because mostly I see people who have existing stuff or they're dealing with demons and entities and reptilians. It's kind of like it's either that or both. They're dealing with something.
Fair enough. Oh, interesting. And your healing practice, like your shamanic work, can you describe that a little bit? Like, give us a little insight on what that entails. If someone comes to you, what are some things that you can offer or you can do?
So the most of the work that I do now is
Oh,
more
yes,
in
you do
the.
teaching and you run web seminars, or right? Correct?
Yeah, yeah, but I've done a lot of ceremonial work over the years, and I do like in-person stuff. Like I do sound healing, and I do big events with sound and breath work and things like that every so often still. And I also work with a medicine called Cambo. That is you've probably heard of it because it's a South American medicine. It's a frog secretion, that not the psychedelic one. It's more of a cleansing detoxification
I have
medicine.
not heard of this though, so this is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a frog medicine it's in Mexico, it's in South America, Peru, and yeah. And I've been working with that for about 9 years now, actually, long time. I mean, I've seen miraculous things with that. I will be careful what I say, but
Yes, fair enough. Yes.
it's a very powerful detoxification medicine for people who are dealing with, like, they need to heal physically, but it works emotionally and energetically as well. But it really clears the body of all kinds of stuff. So that I still work with. And I do my shamanic, like quantum healing type work, which is mostly, it's done virtually. It doesn't need to be in person, and those are like where I deal with the entity interferences, and I do timeline work. So a lot of the stuff that I do is for people who are, they're dealing with things they can't work through certain things, or they're a lot of times I'll have clients who something is like they had a reoccurring illness since birth, and then I'll find out like it came from their great grandmother's grief. So a lot of ancestral timeline type stuff. And I have clients who say to me, they'll be every day, like one session will be very impactful. And even like the other day, I started working with a new guy who's dealing with some neurological issues and some trauma. And he was like, I've done a lot of energy work, but I've never had a physical reaction to it like I did after our session. Um so I get really good results with the energy work that I do,
That
the
is
quantum.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Yeah, because there is like a lot of people don't know, like when you're talking um like generational trauma, like things do get handed down. And when we look in our actual genetics, we know that genes are brought and handed down. So what's not to say trauma is not part of that, or like this long-standing illness that we have, or these issues that we have, um has been handed down because it hasn't been dealt with. And perhaps
Exactly.
that is our chores for us to, we do say the sins of the father. It kind of is like that. It's kind of brought to us, and it's like, hey, you are the one that has to end this. You have to stop this, which is sometimes extremely difficult.
You want to hear this story
Of
that
course I do.
speaks to that?
Yes.
So yeah, so I had this client, and I actually had been working with mother daughter. I had worked with both of them. And what happened was, so both of the mom and the daughter have both had autoimmune disorders their whole life. And the daughter had reoccurring, both of them, reoccurring pneumonia of her whole life. And in the session, what happened was, all of a sudden this elderly woman showed up, this spirit showed up. And that, I don't always, it's not like I'm a medium in that sense where a lot of spirits will come in, but once in a while they do. An older woman came in, and she had a baby, and she showed me the baby. And she was beside a body of water. And I said to my client, I said, there's this older woman, I think she's your grandmother. She's presenting a baby here to me, and she's showing me. And I said, the baby died. She's showing me the baby died. And that was her great grandmother, whose baby drowned when he was like, it was like 2 months old, the baby. And right away, I was like, it, I knew that they had carried that grief. That was very clear. They had carried that grief that the grandmother didn't process of losing her baby. Both the mother and the daughter were still carrying down the line, down the lineage. So I worked with both of them to clear that, and it was like life changing for both of them. So it's real. Like it, you can't even make that up, you know? So it was very powerful.
Extremely, especially when you're able to like pinpoint this. Like it's not you just taking a shot in the dark. You're like, you say, this is what I see, this is what is happening. And lo and behold, this has happened, and this is something that, you're dealing with. And it actually, yeah, yeah. Sorry. I'm just like, that's incredible. That is
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. Yes. All right. So now, have you had any other moments in your life where, things just seem to shift? Was there any like specific moments in your life where you've had these big shifts? And I know that happens to a lot of us, but I'm curious about yours.
So I have had some pretty powerful experiences, and the one of them that I I didn't talk about for years, and now I'm sharing it a lot because it's just like not a big deal anymore to share it. But I was about 28 years old. I was about 28, and I had this experience where this is this is kind of crazy to even like it's hard to even explain, but I was basically having like a normal day. And you know how the fabric of reality is, we know that we always say, oh, there's no time and space, and time is not real, and all this stuff. And I was reading David Hawkins at the time, where he talks about all that stuff too. I was really into David Hawkins' books, Power versus Force, and his whole series. And what happened to me was, all of a sudden, like the fabric of reality dissolved. And so, like, everything in my reality, every physicality was gone. And it was just like a white mist. It was like a white mist. And I'm not even joking. All of a sudden, this little chime would go off. Like, this chime would go off. I don't know who was doing the chime. Maybe it was God. And every time the chime would go off, I would turn into a different version of myself from a different life. So it was just like life after life after life after life. And I saw myself in, it seemed like hundreds of lives. And I was like, what's happening? Like, I could see that in a lot of these lives, I could remember them, and that I had similar features, like, but I was a different person. Sometimes I was a man, but a lot of times I was a woman that looked the same, but it wasn't me. I had medieval lifetimes and all this stuff. And so essentially that just, I have no idea exactly the time that was involved, but when I finished that experience, I was like, all my all my gifts were open, like clairaudience, clairsentience, all of them, claircognizance, all of them were open, probably to 100%. Like I was almost crazy. I was almost like I had to
Like
just
an
come
overload. It
down.
was
I was
almost like
wide
overload almost.
open. I was
Hmm.
wide open, and all my timelines were open, so I could see all my connections of my different lives. It was a lot. It was a lot. But I remember what I going in my room one day, and I was like picking up just a piece of paper, and I think it said one word on it or something, and it was just like I was bawling, and I was like, it was like this love. And yeah, I came back down. It took me a few months to come
Yes.
down from the insanity. I tried to recreate that experience by going to past life regression, and it never happened again. It was like a one-time thing, but it was extremely impactful because I feel like I understand timelines, and I understand how those things work on a different level, and how the fabric of reality like actually is. I really understand it because it's not just a concept that I read in a book. I've actually experienced it.
Experienced it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's mind altering, mind blowing, even, and it and I don't know. I can relate to a lot of what you say. I'm not saying like I had that experience, but I can relate to like this interconnectivity between all these lives, all these timelines. Like when you're saying we had like these, when you had these crossover points, I think it's, I think that happens more often than not, where we actually do cross over and we have these points, these connection, these cross world points. And I think it's very important. Could it be what we deem, what we say deja vu? You know, when we have like a deja vu, is that a point that maybe we've experienced this in another lifetime, almost the exact same kind of thing? Because life, you know, other timelines doesn't mean that we're only, like you said, you know, we had one of the medieval times. It doesn't mean we're only in the medieval times. It could mean that we're right at this exact time, but we're in a different dimension. You know, things are slightly different, just slightly off. Instead of Coca-Cola, it's Mocha-Cola or something. I don't know. It could be just a slight change because there are in infinite amounts of timelines, and I believe that we are being part of them all. And what I do believe is that this timeline is the prime timeline. I think that this is the prime consciousness, the prime timeline, and all those other ones we feed into it. And I think we have to be careful not to jump this prime timeline off, which might have happened in the past. That for me is an explanation for the Mandela effects. I think that we've had some issues to our timeline that have moved it or skipped it, so to speak. But hopefully we, you know, we're back in that prime. But yeah, I find that extremely interesting, you know, what you said there. So is there any other, have you ever had any other these profound experiences such as that as well?
I would say the other one that is more recent was kind of out there as well. People are like,
Perfect.
this girl's
Great. This
crazy.
is the perfect, this is the perfect show for that.
Yeah, I was I've been to Peru several times, but my last trip there was last August, and I went to Lake Titicaca. I went, so they correct you. I went there for the second time, and I, you know, was planning on swimming. I was like, I'm going in the water this time, and I love it there. I've gone to this place called Uros a couple of times, and it's actually they've built their home, their land on reeds out on the lake because they wanted to escape the Spanish Inquisition. And they're the original people of Lake Titicaca. They have been there since it has been there. I had some really cool experiences with one of the guys who owned a lodge that we stayed at. And he, you know, one of the things that there's a couple stories I have from this place I can tell, but one of the things I'll share is that so you know, everywhere I go in Peru, I see pyramids, and I'm like, okay, I can see what a mountain is, and then I can see what a pyramid is, and I'm like, there are pyramids everywhere here, everywhere, and I'm freaking out about this the whole time. I'm like, I see them everywhere, and so when I had his name is Yvonne, and when we went out, he took us out on a boat so we could do an offering to the lake, and he was really excited that we had made. It's called a despacho, and that's what the Quero do. It's an offering. And he was like, no one has ever been here. Like no Westerners have ever been here and wanted to do a ceremony. And I'll take you out to the spot that we would do it traditionally. And it just happened to be a new moon, and that's when they would normally do it. So it was all these things lining up. So we did this boat ride with him. And so we had some time to spend with him. And he was telling us all kinds of stuff about like his, you know, he's grown up basically from his grandfathers and his ancestors. They kept all their traditions and their memory, and they've always known that their original ancestors came from the water. They came out of Lake Titicaca, like they were in the water. They were from the water. They know that, and they are very different from even regular Peruvians or any other South American. Like he told us that when they die, and you could tell just by looking at them, totally different race. And he said that when they die, the government of Peru wants all their bodies all the time so they can study because their DNA is different than even regular Peruvians. Their DNA is different. So they always want to take their bodies so they can study them. And he also said that the whole bottom of the lake is filled with pyramids, and he confirmed to me that there's pyramids everywhere. He said next time we go back, he'll take us on some sacred sites that people don't know about. Like he was like the like we had been working with all the Quero, which are masters, but like he was a true, like, I mean, you don't get that level of they're the original people and the stuff he knew. He spoke like 6 or 7 different languages. Like Amrita was their original like their original tongue. He still speaks. Plus he speaks Spanish, Peruvian, and all every. He just would learn it, and he would always. I would say to him, I would see him like it was a very small place, but guests would come and they would not be prepared for the cold. We're Canadian, so the cold is okay, but they were showing up off the boat in high heels and mini skirts, and we were like, where do you think you are? And they would be like demanding, they would want, we're at an eco place, and they would want luxuries, and it wasn't like that. And he just had so much patience with people, and he was just like, we don't have drama. Like, we don't, there wasn't an ounce of frustration or like just peace. It was just peace. So whenever I think of like my busy life and, getting stressed out, I just think of him. Like, just pure peace.
He kind of grounds you back down
He
to
grounds me back into
yeah.
reality. Like, just calm down. Everything is okay. um, Another experience I had there was at a different place called Amantani Island. That's a place, a different island on the lake. And I swam in that water. And a crazy story happened where I brought like 2 stones in with me to swim, and I basically just it was a random thing that I did this, but I wanted to offer one to the lake as like a gift, and then the other one I set an intention with. I set an intention, and I just left it there in the water, and I prayed with it, and I said, I would like the lake, the spirit of this lake, to send me any knowledge that I'm supposed to have, something like that. Left it in the lake. Went home, forgot about it. And then I'm home for about 2 weeks, and I hear this little voice, and it says, take a bath. And I was like, oh, whatever. I'm like, why am I getting this? The voice we were talking about at the beginning, to take a bath, and the voice also said no music and no videos, and I was like, oh, that's going to be boring, but okay. So, so I get in the bath. 20 minutes in, nothing's happening, and then next thing you know, I start getting communicated to by water. Like this, water is a spirit, and next thing you know, the spirit of water is guiding me through this whole like ritual with it, but it's teaching me how to work with it in ways. I mean, water is part of shamanic work and the elements, but it's teaching me in ways I have never heard of before. It taught me this entire process through the spinal column, actually, of how to work with it through the spinal cord. And so I did this whole process, and after I was done with it, it was very powerful. And after I was done with it, I remembered my intention, and I was like, this is crazy. I took my phone out, I wrote everything down, what I had been shown. And then what happened was, after that, for 2 months, it was about 2 months, I would get woken up every day at 4 a.m., and I would start learning. I would be going through all this stuff in the in between sort of state with plasma and water, because plasma is a higher form of water. They're very similar. And so I would be getting taught this whole process with water and plasma. And so now that's something that I've shared with people through a meditation, and I created a course around it so I could teach people this whole healing process. And that was, another way out there thing that I experienced.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating hearing that. And when you're talking about like these pyramids are everywhere, I know that, like, here in Mexico, they talk about that. They say that like maybe only like 1 or 2% is really uncovered. They're like, when you're driving through the jungle or where we live, they say if you see like a large hill, that's most likely not a hill. That's a pyramid. There's just so many, and it's because it costs so much money um, to like excavate or to explore these things that they just don't. They're just like, no, there is just tons. And I actually have a story as well about like finding a long lost site. My wife worked for um uh, a pipeline company, and that was the first time we moved to Mexico, was for that. And they decided to route this pipeline over a mountain, because they knew if that they ran by the river, there was a good chance they'd find a lot of archaeological sites. So they created like this system. It was almost like a chairlift system for like when you're going skiing. It was like a chairlift system, but it was to carry the pipe up this mountain just for this thing. When they get to the top of the mountain, they find a pyramid site, like Machu Picchu, but much smaller.
Wow.
And yeah, so they are everywhere. It is everywhere. And it's kind of like, why would they be building on top of a mountain? So yeah, they had to call in the archaeologists and everything. And, it kind of halted the program, or halted the job and everything. But they were able to work around it, of course. But it's just very fascinating that there's so many sites out there that we don't know. And it's great that you've been to Peru. I think Peru is like a mecca for strange, bizarre, unknown, mysterious, and so much more. Like there's so much in Peru.
Yeah.
It's definitely a place that's on my list. Like it's kind of been slowly growing. At first it was like, oh, I want to go to Machu Picchu, but now it's like, no, there's so many other places that I'd rather be going than Machu Picchu. I wouldn't mind visiting it because that's such a touristy kind of place to go, but there's so many other places.
Yeah.
Like the Nazca lines, and so many in the Paracas skulls. Just so much out there. Just would
There's
love
so
to
much.
explore.
Yeah. I've been to like many of the sacred sites and at least twice, and it's mind blowing. Even when you go back a second time, it's just even more. Yeah, it's wild.
Is there something in Peru that you might have discovered or were shown that maybe the regular people? Of course, you said you got to go out to Lady Titicaca to do that ceremony. But is there anything else that you've seen that maybe regular tourists aren't able to see or weren't able to see?
Probably a lot of stuff, because I was there twice with Juan Nunes del Prado, who's an anthropologist. He was the teacher of Alberto Villoldo, actually. So he's one of the shamans who brought a lot of those teachings to the West. But I've been with him twice, and so because he knows, like, he's also from Peru, and he knows the history, and he knows so much. Like, it was just like, I have him on video on taking us to all these places that, I mean, they're not the regular touristy places. There was quite a few different places we went to. Um, there was this one place, I can't remember the name of it, but it was like I have some really cool photos of it. We had to hike up a mountain, and we went like way up to get, it was like straight up, but there were like steps, but tourists don't go there. And we go way up this mountain, and we get to this mountain peak, and there's this triangle, and you can go into the triangle in the mountainside. So we went in, yeah, so we went into the triangle, and when you're in there, there's a whole like ceremonial type of space, and in the rocks carved out like different altars and different places that you sit on, it all carved out. Like, that was a cool place. Nobody, like,
And
it
how deep
wasn't
and how deep does that go? Like, was it just like surface, or is it kind of like went fairly deep into
It
this?
went fairly deep. Yeah. It went fairly deep, and there was quite a lot of space. Like, I have photos of it. Like, it was pretty big to the back. And then I remember on both sides there were these like places that you can kind of sit in the walls, like several of them, because they do rituals with these, and those are ancient rituals. We were doing them too, these processes with the different spots that they do. But yeah, it was fascinating. I have some really cool photos of it. That was one of my cool experiences. There was quite a few.
I would love to have I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that, because that would have been extremely interesting. It's like I really do like those out of the way kind of places. Like I said, of course I'd like to go see Machu Picchu, but it's those other places that like here in Mexico, a lot of people go to. I'm somewhat near Chichen Itza. Everybody
Mm,
goes to Chichen Itza. Of course I did as well. But there's a lesser known, the sister city of Chichen Itza, which is called Mayapan, and not many people know it. The one time that I went, there was at most 12 people
mm.
in this at this site, and that included me and my family as well. So there was a you can go there and you can really explore, and of course, you can't really explore as much as you'd like to. It is still kind of like a tourist site of sorts, but it's
Yeah.
it's more off the way, off the beaten path, and it's really I like those sites a lot better. I like to be getting to know get out of the tourist traps and getting to know like these
Yeah.
real the real authentic sites. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have a ton of videos of like, I mean, it's just insane. I mean, you have it there too, and the size of these rocks in some of these places, and you see like even Machu Picchu. I mean, because there's so many people there. I've been there twice, and I thought I want to go there the next time I go there. I want to not have a camera, go without, and just look because it is actually completely the most beautiful, breathtaking thing to see, but there's just so many people there, and there are other energetically stronger places. There's also have you ever heard of the portal Amaru Mu? This is in Lake Titicaca. This is a really cool place that I don't know, I
Please
think it
tell
was
please tell me about it. Yeah.
it's called the portal Amaru Mu, and it's a massive structure of some kind of rock, a stone rock that I mean is humongous. Like I don't even know how many, like almost the size of a high rise building. That's how big it is. It's
Wow. Okay.
huge, and it just goes straight up. And in it, a doorway. There's a doorway, and then there's two, almost like like it reminds me of like Beam Me Up, Scotty. Like these
Okay.
two like things, right? And you go right in, like you can climb up the side of the rock and you can go. I have photos of me in all of the different three things that are there, the doorway and then the Beam Me Up, Scotty things. And that's what I call them.
I thought you were gonna say like Lord of the Rings when they're standing out front of that door, and it's like
Yes,
what
it's
is
like that.
okay.
And I don't know, it's said to be like they call this the gate of the gods, and they also say that this was potentially they say when Lemuria fell, or Atlantis. I think they say it was when Lemuria, but either way, when one of those fell, people came through that doorway to migrate to South America. Is one of the legends around it. So, but anyway, it's fascinating, this place. I love it there. Like the energy of the stuff there's golden eggs in the photo that I took. Like I have these, it's coming from the reflection of the sun, but they're like golden eggs in the photo.
That
Yeah.
sounds beautiful and amazing. I know it's like a and that's interesting you say that. It's kind of like almost like a pilgrimage or like a journey as a pathway, like a connecting from Atlantis to that. I've talked to a couple people about Atlantis. I don't know if you ever heard of Michael Laflemme. He goes pretty deep on Atlantis. I literally have his book right here. It's
Ah.
called whoops, as I hit everything. Visions of Atlantis.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah. So he goes extremely deep, and he takes in the work of Edgar Casey as well.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So but yeah, he talks about Atlantis being like a lot of people think of Atlantis, they think of it as like one place, but it's kind of saying like the Roman Empire.
Right.
Yeah, there was Rome, but there was the Roman Empire, and he says, yeah, like the actual island of Atlantis. I think it was like three cataclysms that ended up happening. There was like the first, second, and then finally the third that wiped it out.
Yeah.
But that's interesting that, and it's not the first that I've heard of people migrating to Peru.
Yeah.
Dealing with the Practice skulls, I was talking with L.A. Marzulli, and he had traced the mitochondrial DNA from the Practice skulls back to oh my gosh, to like I don't want to say the Middle East because it's not, but to near Mount Hermon, where Mount Hermon is. I had
Um,
it on the top of my head. So, which is very interesting because if Mount Hermon is the landing spot of the 33% of the fallen angels, the Watchers.
oh,
So
wow.
yes. So it ties in like Nephilim
Yep.
in with it as well. So it seems like a lot of people decided to migrate or head to Peru. Like what in Peru is so special. Like don't get me wrong, like I think it is like there's so much going on there, but like why was Peru this point, this, this retreat point? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it was just like logistically, I don't know either. Or maybe it was the energy of the place that they knew was a power center, you know? And I think even the Inca, like they were obviously the before them was the Lemurians, the Atlanteans, and then I think part of their, even because a lot of the stuff we're learning, actually they talk about Inca, it came from Inca, but it's actually coming from, there's traditions that I think came from,
Yes.
even that were passed even way
Before the Incas. Yes, I
before Inca.
agree.
Yeah,
We assume it's like, oh, it's the Incans, but you look at, like, such as the walls that are being built. You can see, like, the before, then you can see the Incas. They did this, and then you can see maybe the Spaniards on top of it, and it's
yeah,
like amazing, and then it's like meh, and then it's
yeah,
worse. That doesn't happen. We don't lose technology unless you're going to the moon, and then they just decide to get lose that technology. But that's a whole
yeah.
other story. Um, but
And
yeah,
even the Quero, just to add to that too, that they know, they've always had their knowing that they're a star lineage. So they have always connected with the stars. They know it's mostly Sirius, but they know that they're a star in the Pleiades, and they're a star lineage. That's what they just know, that that's part of their tradition.
it's and that's not the yeah. There's the Dogon tribe, I think, in Africa as well, that
Mm,
they talk about, like, the star lineage as well. Like, this is so again, you're kind of like adding to this, that yes, like, these tribes know that whether they're connected somehow to the star family, to the alien races, or to the stars themselves.
yeah,
um and I feel that we're just, like, trying to figure this out. We're all like, well, what does that really mean? Like, what does star family mean? Are they there's so many questions. I have so many questions, not enough time. But Rebecca, I don't want to take up any more of your time, and I want to say thank you so much for coming out tonight. I really appreciate that.
thank you so much. It's been a great chat, great conversation.
It has. Now, actually, I did want to ask one last question before we go. Um, Before you had your encounter with a hissing lady, or hissing reptilian lady, do you was there any unusual, like, did you have any unusual feelings, dreams, or synchronicities that happened just before that? Was there anything that you're like, okay, that did happen, and then was there anything like that you could think of?
Not that I can really think of, not that I can really think of. I was living, the only weird thing, which is not that weird, is that I was living on the West Coast and I was in Toronto. I was on the East Coast, and was kind of in the process of moving here, but other than that, it wasn't like and I don't know if maybe Vancouver doesn't have reptilians, shapeshifters in the movie theater. It's a lot smaller. I don't know, but yeah, no, there wasn't anything that I can remember that happened.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
no problems. I
No
appreciate you trying
UFOs
to.
or anything.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this happened, or this happened. I had a
Yeah,
dream of, like, being abducted, and then this. Yeah, but no.
yeah.
Okay, Rebecca. So one last time, if you could tell my listeners and viewers where they can find you, and maybe book a session with you too, or go to one of your retreats.
Yeah, so RebeccaKeating.com is my website. And most of my stuff is on there. I have a lot of free stuff too, like protection master classes and a protection ebook. And I love to just share that stuff with people because a lot of people are really struggling in those areas. I have some meditations that are free. And then they can also find me on Instagram. It's Rebecca Keating on Instagram. Uh, and yeah, come say hello.
Fantastic. For sure, for sure. Rebecca, thank you so much. I really appreciated having you on tonight.
Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. What Rebecca shared tonight, it just isn't a story. It's a reminder that our reality is far more layered and strange and interconnected that than we're led to believe. Um, you know, I, Many years ago, I would have think this was crazy. Someone saying, "Oh, this woman hissed at me." Oh, she just hissed because that she was just hissing. But now, so like whether we see her reptilian encounter as spiritual vision or an interdimensional crossing or a brush with a hidden species, which is what I believe, the truth is that these experiences are happening to people all over the world, and they demand our curiosity. So again, I want to say thank you to Rebecca for bringing her courage, her insight, her wisdom, and her amazing stories. And then again, to you, dear listener, keep your curiosity wandering, keep the light lit, and always find your way home.
Beneath the stars where shadows grow, the Nephilim's echoes whisper low. Bigfoot roams through the forest deep, and Dogman prowls where the brave won't sleep. Across lost history we wonder why, seeking the truth that time tried to hide. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies, aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks, in the void of secrets a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the code gas flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. Velvet skies, aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks, in the void of secrets a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the code gas flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. Legends rise from the Earth's deep core, a lost legacy we can't ignore. With every step, the veil grows thin, revealing worlds where the strange begins. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit, through the darkness don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home.